This glorious Tuesday, and a glorious Tuesday it is. Folks, I love being a dad. I really do. I mean, there are some frustrating moments. I mean, but by and large, being a father is one of the greatest things in the world. I absolutely love it. Even the frustrating moments, especially when you look back at them in retrospect. And you know, there's no field manual for children. there's no shortage of people out there who would give you suggestions about how you should raise your kids. But we've got 5 here at Fort Parnell. Commander Melanie and I have an amazing blended family. It's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but most of the time it's just so cool. And each kid is just so unbelievably different that it's just funny. And so this time of day is always a little bit not a little bit challenging here in Fort Parnell, but a lot challenging in Fort Parnell, mostly for Commander Melanie, because I'm down here doing this live show and she is coordinating. And this is, by the way, no small task. She is coordinating the pickup of all of our children from school. Our oldest drives, so sometimes she'll drive home from school, she'll pick up her smock for work, and she will drive right to work at the grocery store. And then the rest of the time, Commander Melanie is running out and picking up kids for school, and she's doing it right now. And then when kids have extracurriculars, Emma right now, my 14-year-old daughter, she plays basketball. My other 14-year-old daughter starts volleyball on Saturday. She's got like these lead up to these volleyball tryouts, and they start at 7:00 in the morning on a Saturday. And she's I can't believe I have to wake up at 7 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, just to get ready for volleyball practice on Saturday. And so it's a lot of work coordinating, driving here and there with kids. Kudos to my amazing wife for making that happen, because it is not easy. But right before the show, I walked upstairs and refilled my drink. And, for those of you all who've been watching the show, I got my trusty camouflage drink in this Yeti. And yes, I know how many of you think about Yeti. I get it. But I've got this cup a long time ago. It's multicam. You can see it's all worn and tattered. But it's like the only cup that I use. And they don't make this multicam pattern anymore in Yeti. So I'm just very loyal to this cup. I use it all the time. So I run it upstairs to fill this cup up. And my youngest son, is just getting home from school. He gets home from school absurdly late, spends a long time on the bus, far too long, in my opinion. But he comes upstairs and he goes, "Oh, hey, Dad." He goes, "Did you get your hair cut today?" It's just funny having that question. First of all, he was the first one in a very busy house who noticed. But this is just quintessential Evan. And if you knew Evan, you'd know what I mean. This kid, he just notices everything. He listens to everything. He coordinates his outfits perfectly. He loves shoes, specifically Jordans. I guess all kids like these Jordan shoes now, just kind of like when I was a kid. But he wants his bedroom to look nice. He wants his bedroom to look clean. He wants his desk to look nice. He wants his desk to look clean. There's a little left to be desired with the laundry part of it, but I know Commander Melanie is working on that with him. And then as he says, "Oh, you got a nice haircut," and then he fills this bowl full of goldfish, about a big bowl full of goldfish about this high. And I'm like, "Holy smokes, dude, that's a big bowl of goldfish." And he's like, "Nah," and just walks away. This morning on my way to school, I was talking to my daughter, Emma, who's basketball right now, about this project that she did for school. And it was for social studies. And she really likes her social studies teacher, and said that the teacher said to her, "Look, if you're going to be a politician," and by the way, most people in this area know who I am. They know the last name. They know that they know that I'm a fire and brimstone conservative. That's just my reputation. If you know the kinds of campaigns that I ran. But this teacher said to Emma, "I know both sides of these issues, liberal, conservative arguments on both sides. And I bet you students couldn't even tell which side that I'm on, even though Emma's like, Dad, I think I know which side this guy's on. But she did this project where she talked about the executive branch and the legislative branch and the judicial branch and a debate that they got in at school about the Second Amendment. And started talking to my daughter, and of course my young son Evan, who notices everything, is sitting in the back seat, and we're driving to school and talking about the Second Amendment and talking about the founders' vision for this country. And she said in the debate in school that there was a brief conversation about the left wanting to take away people's guns, and that is accurate because the left has been wanting to take away our Second Amendment rights as Americans for quite some time now. And I said, the founders, I said, I love this stuff. This social studies class that you're in, learning about our government, learning about our founders, learning about our history, the Constitution, the amendments, the Bill of Rights, that. This is like one of the most important classes that you will ever have. And I mean that when I say it. Yes, math is important and all that stuff too. But people don't know the history of our country anymore. They don't understand our founders' vision. They don't understand the Bill of Rights. They don't understand the philosophical underpinnings of the Constitution and why it is the greatest document in the history of the world. And I told my daughter on the way to school, the founders escaped. I'm trying to explain this to a 14-year-old, but both my 14-year-olds are ridiculously smart, so they get it. So the founders escaped an oppressive country and came here and wrote a constitution that empowered the people over government, a document that restrained government's authority, power, and reach over the citizens. And they started that task by crafting the Bill of Rights. And every citizen in America, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the rights given to us, bestowed upon us in those Bill of Rights, are rights with a capital R, are rights in the truest sense, and that they are bestowed upon us by our Creator, which is what our founder said. In other words, they are given to us by God and not government. And all the while, she's just listening to me. I said, so there are two parts to this Second Amendment debate, and it's awesome because my daughter Emma is super into politics. She just is, and she's a conservative, and I love it. But I said there are two parts to the Second Amendment debate. One, the left will say, oh, these are assault weapons. They're dangerous, military-style rifles on the streets. We can't have that in America. They just do too much damage. Well, actually, the founders wrote the Second Amendment to protect liberty from tyranny, to give the citizens a way to fight back against a government that reached just too far. Many in the media, certainly the left, has tried to redesign what our history really was, make people think that what I just said is extreme. It's not. That's the core reason of why the Second Amendment was written. To fight back against the government should they step out of line. Yes, that's a fact. People might not like that. I know many of the people in the battle crew. And by the way, Dan Nunn and the Nunchucks, I see you. You rated the stream. Welcome. If you're not following Dan Nunn and the Nunn Report, go follow, subscribe right now. He's a great patriot with a great show. But the left has been trying to redefine our history for some time now. We're not buying it. But the two parts to this debate are there's no such thing as an assault rifle. Assault is a distinctly human characteristic. The left just conjured up that word out of whole cloth. But beyond that, yes, our founders did intend us to own AR-style rifles to prevent the government from having a monopoly of force over the people. Also to protect yourself, to protect your family, to provide for your family with hunting. I mean, the left makes it seem, oh, hunting, that's all the Second Amendment's about hunting. It's about protecting yourself, protecting your family. It's about providing for your family, but mostly it's about protecting liberty from tyranny. I said the second part of this argument, and the one that I find is most compelling, is that the left or any government official, they don't have the authority. I reject their authority and their desire to take my guns in the first place. Because if our rights are given to us by our creator and bestowed upon us by God, not government, then those rights can never be taken away by a government official. And therefore, the left has no authority. And I reject it. And that's what the founders intended. But I'm telling you, I go into this day loving being a father. I also love being a husband to Commander Melanie. She challenges me in great ways every day to be a better person. But being a father is just so cool because you get to have these conversations with your kids in the hope that they grow up to fight for this country. That's what it's all about, right? That's why I'm doing this show. Or how about, that's why people volunteer to serve this country. That's why people risk their life for this country. That's why people would be willing to die for this country if need be, because what we have here is special. And if our kids don't take up that mantle, and if our kids don't truly understand all the amazing things that we have here in this country, and by God, if they're not willing to step up and fight for it when it's their time, then what is the point of all of this? And so, all right, enough on that. You've heard me on my soapbox now talk about this stuff, but this is the kind of stuff that's on my mind. I think 4 years. Okay, Trump's in office for 4 years, and I'm not tired of winning. And it seems to be Trump is posting W's every single day since he's been back in the White House. But 4 years goes by in the blink of an eye. And what then? And what happens when I'm too old to fight? What happens when I'm not here? One of my kids going to take up the fight. I mean, that's our legacy, right? Is what do we leave on this planet after we're gone? Will people pick up where we left off? I hope so. But anyways, okay, let's shift to some of the headlines. We got so much to talk about today. Smash that like button. That little gray thumb beneath the video, when you smash it, it turns green, and it helps us make the leaderboard we did last night. Thank you to the battle crew. Okay, let me follow up on a story that we covered last night. So on Friday, we talked a lot about the Hegseth vote. We talked about Murkowski, Collins, and the McConnell thing was a bit of a surprise, but he was on the fence too. The vote had not happened by the time we did the show. It happened later that night on Friday. Now, on that show, and I had raised this question multiple times throughout the week when this fake allegation rolled out, this 11th hour allegation to derail Pete's nomination rolled out from Pete's brother's ex-wife. I don't know why people would think that that's compelling or anything but politically motivated. I don't know. But the media and the left in this country, all they have are hoaxes and lies. So it doesn't surprise me that they would have tried it. But all the while, she released a statement when she leveled these accusations and came forward. And she said, I have been assured that me coming forward will convince other Republicans not to vote for Pete Hegseth. So she makes her motivation very clear. And this is a very sinister move by the people behind the curtain. And I can't even say the left. And I'll tell you why here in a second. It's a sinister move. And I want to take you all the way back to something that I said about Lindsey Graham and Joni Ernst when they were on the fence about Hegseth. They would go on the news and they'd say, these anonymous allegations, they're anonymous. I'm not putting any stock in them. Now, you're willing to come forward. Well, that makes things a little bit different. To me, when I hear that, that's a senator trying to have it both ways. Trying to say, yeah, I reject anonymous allegations. No, I'm not going to let these anonymous allegations sway my vote because, damn it, I'm a conservative and proud. But if there's somebody out there that wants to come forward, doesn't matter how ludicrous or ridiculous they are, you want to come forward, put a face to the accusations, well, we might have something different then. That, to me, that's what they were doing. And so it came out yesterday night that, okay, so last week I said, well, who assured her? Who assured this woman that by making this false allegation against Pete would sway Republicans? Rich thought it was Lisa Murkowski. Remember that? I'm coming over here to the live chat. Battle Crew, do you remember Rich Barris and I and some of my monologues about this? I mean, who assured her that her false accusation would sway votes? Let me know in the live chat if you remember this conversation. But come to find out late last night that the accuser was Tom Tillis, senator from North Carolina, Republican senator from North Carolina. Now, after the show, there was stories that had been leaking and in quick succession about Tillis wavering. And then Pete put out on Twitter an answer to probably 10 or so questions that Senator Tillis had for him about this new round of allegations. But it was Tom Tillis, Senator Tillis from North Carolina, a Republican, that assured her that her coming forward would sway other Republicans to vote no. And this is why people say, if you want a friend in politics, get a dog. I don't see the Democrats doing stuff like this. And when asked about it, I mean, you can go read what Senator Tillis said. He said, I'll paraphrase, and I'm not attacking Senator Tillis here, but what he said was, yeah, I said this might sway people. I did my due diligence, investigated these new round of allegations, and I voted for Pete. So, okay, I will grant you that. I will grant you that. But if Republicans are really going to win in the way that we need them to over these next 4 years, we really need them to stop this backroom bullshit. And that's exactly what it is. It's backroom bullshit that flies in the face of the mandate that President Trump received when he won just a couple of months ago. That's the reason why this stuff happens behind closed doors. These Republican senators don't want to be held accountable by the voters. Did you see the news that came out today? I mean, Charlie Kirk posted something about it. He said, I'm told that the vote for Tulsi Gabbard might be done privately in a skiff with the vote tallies kept secret from the American people. Charlie Kirk says, this is outrageous and wrong. The American people deserve to know how their senators vote on Trump's nominees. This is just another form of what Tom Tillis did by assuring someone behind the scenes that, doing something in a certain way would persuade Republican senators to vote in a way that was preferable to Democrats. But here again, these Republicans want political cover, for potentially voting against Tulsi Gabbard. And look, you can afford to lose 3. You can afford to lose 3. And Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, I'm just going to tell you, folks, these are tougher. It's tougher for me to see how this is going to work than it was for Pete, because Pete is a lock, stock, and barrel conservative. The calculus is, well, he might lose a couple squishes, but by and large, Republicans are going to back him, and by and large, Democrats will not. But with Tulsi and RFK, I believe they're going to get some Democrat support. I also believe that there are going to be more than 3 Republicans who vote against them because they're Democrats. And in the case of Tulsi Gabbard, people like, neocons and neoconservatives who are old guard Republicans and interventionalists, basically American foreign policy during the 20 years of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. A lot of those senators, and by the way, most of the Republicans in the Senate are old guard Republicans. I don't know. I just don't have a warm and fuzzy about how those senators are going to vote. And what it's going to come down to with Tulsi is the support that she receives on the Democrat side of the aisle going to exceed the support that she loses on the Republican side. I think the same is true with RFK. It's going to be tough. But one thing that I do know is that Americans deserve to know how their senators are voting on Trump's cabinet confirmations. So we'll see. We'll keep our ear to the ground on that. Capitol Hill police caught an assassin at the Capitol today with Molotov cocktails. Apparently this guy was targeting Scott Bessent, I think, who is the newly confirmed Treasury Secretary, and Pete Hegseth, who is, of course, Secretary Hegseth now, the Secretary of Defense. And it got me thinking about assassination attempts. And I know I'm already 20 minutes into the show. It's like I'm kind of just freewheeling here. I'm sorry if I'm off on a tangent, but I promised that I would not stop talking about July 13th. And that fateful day in American history where somebody tried to kill President Trump. I was there, right in the path of the bullets. Corey Comparator sitting right behind, in the bleachers behind Commander Melanie and I. My wife was almost killed. I mean, she was right in the path of the bullets. Could have easily been killed. And I am righteously pissed off about the fact that we still have absolutely, positively no idea what happened. None. And in fact, within 48 hours after the assassination attempt, there was a total media blackout on it. We still know nothing about Matthew Crooks. We still know nothing about his house that was searched. We still know nothing about why his house was sterile. We still know nothing about why this 20-something kid had absolutely zero social media presence whatsoever. We still know nothing about who this kid was contacting before, or why he had 5 different cell phones, or who he was texting or calling moments before the shots rang out. We know nothing about this. And I'm just outraged by this. I'm outraged by this. And really, to me, this is an indictment of the fake news media. The fake narrative, not truth-driven fake news media that for so long has had so much power. But listen, folks, they're on the outs. They are losing power every single day, and they don't like it, and I am here for it. Jim Acosta, one of the worst offenders in fake news history, rude bloviator, former White House correspondent for CNN, turned host on CNN. Dismal ratings. CNN apparently tried to move him to the midnight slot. Jim Acosta, instead of that, quit. But listen to what Trump says. So Trump, upon hearing all of this, and this is why I titled the episode the way that I did. Upon hearing all this, Trump says, "Wow, really good news. Jim Acosta, one of the worst and most dishonest reporters in journalistic history, a major sleazebag, has been regulated by CNN fake news to the midnight hour, Death Valley, because of extraordinarily bad ratings and no talent," in parentheses, and no talent. Word is that he wants to quit, and that would be even better. Jim is a major loser who will fail no matter where he ends up. Good luck, Jim. A couple hours after this, Jim Acosta says this.
It is never a good time to bow down to a tyrant. I've always believed it's the job of the press to hold power to account. I've always tried to do that here at CNN, and I plan on doing all of that in the future. One final message. Don't give in to the lies. Don't give in to the fear. Hold on to the truth and to hope. Even if you have to get out your phone, record that message. I will not give in to the lies. I will not give in to the fear. Post it on your social media so people can hear from you too. I'll have more to say about my plans in the coming days, but until then, I want to thank all of you for tuning in. It has been an honor to be.
Yeah, okay. Okay. These people have done extraordinary damage to our country. Incalculable damage to our country. I want to pivot to J6, and then I want to go into Trump's very first press conference. And Caroline Leavitt, in my opinion, did an amazing job. But at some point in the show, I gotta talk about people who help us pay the bills. And that's where home title lock comes in. The FBI, they call it house stealing. And you've probably heard about this devastating crime on the news because it is a big problem. Scammers can transfer your home title, take out loans in your name, and leave you with nothing but a financial and emotional disaster in the wake. If you own a home or any real estate, it's crucial you protect your property and equity from these criminals. And there's no better way than I know of than Home Title Lock. All you've got to do is go to HometitleLock.com/BNN. If you haven't checked it out before, now is the time. I've arranged for my listeners to get a free title scan and to check to see if your home is still in your name, plus 30 days of free Home Title Lock's triple lock protection. That is 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts if anything has changed, and most importantly, restoration of your title if there's ever any fraud whatsoever. You'll immediately be protected. You will immediately get 30 days free when you use the promo code VNN at sign up. Protect your home, protect your equity, and your peace of mind right now with HometitleLock.com/VNN, promo code VNN. That is HometitleLock.com/VNN. Okay, yesterday on the show, we talked about Trump. Oh, by the way, smash that like button. That little gray thumb beneath the video, turn it green, smash that rumble button. So talked about yesterday, Trump forming a commission to investigate the investigators, the prosecutors who went after J6 families. They did horrible things to J6 families. They trumped up this novel legal theory about 1512C, obstruction of an official proceeding. You remember, we talked about all this stuff on the show while it was happening. Well, these J6 prosecutors who were fired under Donald Trump for basically, and Trump put out a memo on this, or the Trump administration, not Trump himself, put out a memo on this saying, like, basically, paraphrasing, you can go look up the memo yourself, but the gist is you can't be trusted to carry out the president's agenda. So guess what? You're fired. So it's the president's prerogative, right? As the head of the executive branch, the DOJ is part of the executive branch. President can fire whoever the hell he wants. Bill Clinton did it. Barack Obama did it. The moment that they came into the White House, they cleaned house. And I am proud to report that Trump is doing the same thing. So what do these impartial jurist doctors, these DOJ attorneys do? Well, they promptly run to MSNBC, a hyper-partisan network, to bitch, moan, and complain, like any fair lawyer would do.
Let me ask you, we're all trying to make sense of what this announcement of this new review is going to be and what it's about. You were part of the team that tirelessly prosecuted these insurrectionists. Are you worried about being targeted for your work on prosecuting those cases?
Jen, no, maybe I should be, but I know the work that the team did. I know how admirable and meticulous and thorough the team was. I know that we carried out our obligations and our duties to adhere to the rule of law. And so while I think that this mission, this sort of wild goose chase, is one intended to suggest there was something nefarious, I would point out that the charging decisions using this obstruction statute, 1512C2, was not only supported by grand juries, defendants who pled guilty, courts. Over 20 courts in the District of Columbia upheld this charging decision. The District of Columbia Circuit Court upheld it. And it was only the Supreme Court of the United States that finally narrowed the application of this statute. And I would just note that they said nothing about the impropriety of using this statute to charge defendants. And so while the new U.S. attorney is seemingly going on a wild goose chase to suggest that the prosecutors did something wrong here, we know we didn't, and we know that we did our job.
But you guys are all going to be asked for files and documents and emails, and you just have to figure out how to deal with that, right?
Correct. Like I said, it seems like somewhat of a wild goose chase. There are, I'm sure, tens of thousands of files and documents and emails. A different news station reported that the preliminary report was due on Friday. And so I look forward to hearing about that, but I just can't imagine any meaningful work could actually be done given the scope of this investigation.
Let me ask you about this guy, Ed Martin. I just talked about him in the introduction here, who is now the acting U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. It seems to me a little bit like it's the arsonist in charge of the fire department. There may be better analogies, but you spent so much time working on these cases. How do you see this?
I think it's from a person who worked so hard and so long in the office, I think it's insulting to have a new person come in and not only undermine all the work that we've done, but speak out directly against it. And again, suggest that the prosecutors that he's now responsible for governing, I suppose, acted nefariously or outside of their duties. I think it's harmful to the institution of the department, and it's unfounded.
So I know that was a little bit longer than the kind of clips that I usually show on the podcast, but this section has this video, and then I'm going to show another one of a January 6th father whose son has just been basically tortured in prison. But this DOJ, this impartial DOJ lawyer who ran to MSNBC to bitch and moan and complain that now the hunters were now becoming the hunted, essentially. I mean, they're going to have to defend these outrageous actions that they've perpetrated on American people. And I believe that they should. There has to be some level of accountability for lawfare like this and the lives that they have destroyed. And no, that's not an understatement. I'm going to tell you why. I'll give you just one example here in a second, one of many. But she says, oh, all the DC courts, all the grand juries in DC, oh, they thought 1512C2 was completely fine. And this is why I have no problems with the blanket pardons in these J6 cases, because the Washington, D.C. court system is a joke. It is a corrupt mess. 95+% of the jury pool there are hardcore activist Democrats. These are not blue dog Democrats in Western Pennsylvania who are pro-life and pro-gun and love America. No, these are hardcore activist Democrats, 95+% of the people. So this is not a fair jury pool. This is not a jury of your peers. These judges, even the ones that were appointed by Ronald Reagan, they are essentially a Praetorian guard for the establishment, for the deep state, for the Washington bureaucracy. They are so woefully out of touch with the American people. And these Democrats on the bench are just partisan actors. That's it. Plain and simple. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be a lawyer, but I don't have to be a legal scholar to tell you how liberal Supreme Court justices will come down on a very, very important progressive issue. They will always, doesn't matter what the Constitution says, doesn't matter about laws, doesn't matter about norms or anything like that. They will come down on the side of the progressive cause 100% of the time, because that is what they do. It's what they do. These people should be held accountable for the hell that they've put Americans through. Listen to this January 6th father talk about the treatment of his son in the Washington, D.C., supposedly fair Washington, D.C. system.
Have lost everything. Their husbands, the fathers, the breadwinners have been taken from them and put in prison unlawfully for many years for the simplest of infractions.
You said this wasn't the first prison that your son was at. Can you talk to us about what they charged him with and why he was at another prison before coming here?
Sure. What they do is it's called diesel therapy, so you can't settle. So what they'll do is when they first picked my son up on January 16, 2021, they scooped him up and then they started taking him from prison to prison. Spent 202 days down in the bowels of the DC prison. The conditions there are so egregious. He was actually sifting water through a sock because there's so much rust in the bottom of that prison that you can't drink the water. And so, they would lay them on a cot. They had lights. This was like Vietnam, where they had lights on all the time. You had 2 blankets. They call them suicide blankets, and you just laid them on a basically a block, and you didn't even have a mattress. So, and then what they do as soon as you start to get communications with your attorneys and your family, they scoop you up and they take you to another prison. And then so you'll be there for 2 weeks. You're usually a week to 2 weeks. You're in solitary, where they're transitioning you into the new prison. And then you're there for, maybe 3 to 5 months. They ship you out again. And there was a time that on 2 Christmases ago, we didn't know where he was for I want to say almost 3 weeks. How is that possible? How come you can't, call his family? Nobody knows where he's at. When you can't talk to your attorneys, you can't hardly even talk to your family, and you can't possibly, make a defense. And then when you do get your attorneys, you talk to your attorneys, and then they scoop you up and they move you to the prison. All your notes and stuff, they take. So they know exactly what your defense is. It's like playing cards with your opponent looking over your back and looking at your hand. It's impossible to win. What has happened under the Biden regime was so egregious, so anti-American,
Listen to this part.
unconstitutional. They walked all over our Bill of Rights. Thank God President Trump came in here, because not just for our patriots and our families, but for all of America, because if they didn't like you, they would do anything to shut you up. They tried to shut down my businesses. They had the local the state agencies come after my companies. I got a bunch of companies like restaurants. And so they'll stop at nothing to shut you down. And I've lived through it. And so here we are today.
So you're standing out here. President Trump signed the pardon over 24 hours ago, or coming up on 24 hours ago. Your son is still not out. What reasons have they given you for that? And what do you think is actually going on?
What this is nothing more than this nasty, rotten mayor of this city that controls these facilities. They're not federal facilities. They're city-run facilities. So what she's doing, because she's all bent out of shape because they're out, she is doing everything she possibly can to hold up the process and also harm him. My son was assaulted by a lieutenant and 5 other guards last night. He was assaulted, punched. He was sitting in the middle of the quad waiting to get processed and go out. Came in, they handcuffed him, they wrenched his wrists, put him behind him, they punched him. From what I understand, they threw him physically into his cell, and that's where he was for the rest of the night. And this is a young man who has been pardoned like everybody else. And so this is how they're treating them. So we already have a lawsuit filed, but this just adds to that.
So this is so evil and so terrible. I mean, just try to put yourself in that man's shoes about watching your son, your family member, your blood being politically persecuted and thrown in a prison for what were essentially, at best, misdemeanor charges. Imagine the pain and the heartache and the hell that man must have felt, along with his son and his entire family, for the last 4 years of the evil Biden administration. And attorneys like that January 6th attorney, we didn't do anything wrong. DC court said we were fine. The only time we were stopped is when we went to the Supreme Court. Yeah, that is scary that you weren't stopped earlier, because this type of shit should not happen in America. And so you go from that to Trump's Caroline Leavitt's very first press briefing today. And by the way, she did an awesome job. I mean, that press room was packed. But the media is doing some insanely sinister things right now that are just in their infancy, and I want to give you a heads up about them. But you'd think if the media were honest, they'd be screaming about the treatment of these J6 political prisoners. In a just world, in a just country, that is all our media would talk about until these people were set free. But instead, many members of the media are taking up valuable time at White House press briefings. And this is one of the things I want to talk to you about, this narrative about the illegal invasion of our country, southern border type stuff. This idea that they're trying to differentiate. Well, I thought you said it was just going to be violent criminals, not just regular criminals. I thought I was given assurances that regular criminals, illegal aliens they would be untouched. They would remain untouched. I've been given assurances that it's just the violent ones that you'd be getting. I'm serious. This is how they're trying to split hairs in the White House press room. If you don't believe me, listen to Peter Alexander from NBC.
Start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record. besides entering the country illegally? Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though. He said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood. Then let me ask you a separate question about the confusion that's still...
Do you hear Caroline Leavitt laughing at this guy while he was asking the questions? Well, the only crime they committed was coming into the country illegally. So I was told these people would be able to get away scot-free. I'm telling you, this is a thing. This is going to be a new narrative. Well, she wasn't the only one that asked this question. Listen.
Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You mean going from the worst to worst, they all have a criminal record?
And welcome to the briefing. If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are criminal.
I don't know why this is so hard for these people to understand. These people came into our country illegally. They committed a federal crime with their very first act coming into America. And here is the media. They are defending and splitting hairs about, well, this person's a violent crime. This person just stole. This person, all are illegal aliens. Here's the media fighting to defend people who aren't even citizens, and to go a step further, but defend people who are all criminals, but don't give a shit about the January 6th prisoners who were thrown in jail for fake charges. Yes, they were fake. You know, people like Jen Psaki calling them insurrectionists and brainwashing morons to believe that January 6th was some sort of insurrection. By the way, if you think that and you're watching this show, which I know you don't, I know people who watch this show, listen to this show, are smart. But I got news for you. If you think January 6th was an insurrection, you don't know what an insurrection is. So just saying, these media types do grave damage to our country and have destroyed people's lives. But Caroline Leavitt, so the other fake narrative that I want to lead you in on, because these are the two things that the media is focused on. Well, these aren't the illegal alien thing, or thought there was just going to be violent criminals. And the other thing is the price of eggs. Now, never mind the fact that President Trump has been in office for 7 days, 8 days. It's only been a week. The media has been on, well, you said that when Trump was elected, the price of eggs would come down. I mean, anyone with half a brain knows that it's going to take a little bit of time for Trump's economic policies to take shape. And this is why President Trump has made it a priority to lower energy prices. This is why President Trump says drill, baby, drill all the time. Because farmers use fossil fuels. Once those eggs are produced, they're shipped to the stores in trucks that use fuel, diesel fuel. And once they get to the store, I mean, there's a million reasons why lowering the cost of energy lowers the cost on the American consumer. But to, these mouth-breathing journalists, oh no, you said the cost of eggs would come down, and they haven't. I know it's only been 8 days, but what's the deal with that? Listen for yourself.
Christian Day Talk.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration in the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage.
These are two very stupid narratives. Yeah, they're stupid. I get it. But the media is doubling down on them. I swear to God. Oh, and okay, so someone in the live chat, I can't remember who it was. Gosh, who was it? Asked about drones. And have we heard anything on drones? Well, this is Caroline Leavitt's first press briefing. Took about a week for her to get out in front of the media. And by the way, as if I didn't say it before, I can't remember if I did. I'll say it now. The room was absolutely packed. The Trump administration instituted this new policy where they're not just relying on traditional media outlets like ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox News. They're bringing in everybody. You know, so I think the second question of the day went to Matt Boyle, who is Breitbart's Washington, D.C. correspondent, which is pretty awesome. They're bringing in everybody. They're allowing independent content creators to apply for White House media credentials. It's a great plan. Why give a monopoly on the narrative to these fake news outlets who do nothing, and I mean it, nothing but lie to the American people? The future is independent media. The future is independent content creation. So the fact that the Trump administration is empowering folks like this is a great thing. But one of the very first things Caroline Leavitt did on behalf of the president was tell the American people what the hell is going on with these drones.
After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news. And with that, I will turn it over to questions.
I mean, so here's my thing with that. These were federal companies that were doing tests. They had to be these drone tests had to be approved by the federal government, by the Biden government. So if Joe Biden and company knew about what these drones were, then why in God's name didn't they just tell the American people about what the drones were? Why just let the American people wonder what the hell is going on? And this is my point. For all the fake news out there covering the Trump White House in a hostile way, because that is what you do. That is all you know. You would prefer a White House in the Biden administration who does nothing but lie to you. And here you have Trump in his first week has answered more questions than Biden has done in 4 years. And oh, by the way, he's not lying to you. You have a level of transparency that you rarely ever have, and yet you're still doing the fake news bullshit. These Democrats don't care about you. They don't care about how the American people feel about you. These Democrats lying to you and hoping that you'll carry water for them. I mean, why do it? Why ruin your own reputation? It's kind of unbelievable. A couple of other things that I think you need to know about coming out of the White House press briefing. There was a lot of talk about the Trump administration putting a temporary freeze on federal grant payments. And the way that the Democrats are handling this and the way that their allies in the media are handling this is by saying, oh my God, all of these entitlement programs like SNAP and Medicaid and all of these, food stamps, Trump is freezing them. He's shutting them out. Oh my God, Trump is evil. He doesn't care about all these people. Full stop. That's a lie. These programs do not affect this freeze, I should say. This freeze on this federal grant program has absolutely nothing to do with entitlement programs. They're not a part of it. But that hasn't stopped some in the media and some left-wingers in Congress to say that it has. But the reason why Trump froze some of these programs is these government grants, I'm serious, folks, fund some of the most ridiculous left-wing insane shit in the world. A lot of it isn't even here in America. And Patrick Casey put together this awesome thread on X about this very thing. And he said in 2021, the Biden administration gave $540,000 to Transgender Equity Consulting, Inc. This firm is comprised of 6 Black and Latinx transgender and non-binary individuals, one of whom is apparently the first BBW trans porn star. The Biden administration issued $850,000 in federal grants to a left-wing organization, LGBTQI plus family support program, which have characterized as promoting gender ideology for the children of military families. $500,000 to behavioral health for the transgender community in Hawaii. $1.2 million to the New Orleans Community Support Foundation to adopt a holistic, adaptive water management vision that centers the leadership of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So I'm just saying the list goes on and on and on. Some of these programs are insane. And Caroline Leavitt said from the briefing, from the podium today, that one of these federal grants was for $50 million in condoms for the people of Gaza. I'm sorry, but these all represent an absurd waste of our taxpayer dollars. It is some of the craziest spending in the world, and it has to stop. And by the way, it doesn't align with the Trump agenda. It doesn't align with what he wants to do. And the reason why that's important is that he was elected with a mandate. He's working on behalf of us. I don't want my taxpayer dollars to go to these insane programs. And by the way, you know what the people in Gaza do with those condoms? Hamas takes them and they turn them into explosives. They use them in explosive making. So basically what the Biden administration is doing with this $50 million condom program is help arm Hamas to wage and conduct attacks on Israel. But it's absolutely insane. Other thing that came out is Caitlin Collins. You gotta hear the premise of this insane question that she asked. Seriously, it's just that you don't hate the media enough. I'm surprised Caroline Leavitt handled this in the way that she did.
On what happened on Friday night, the administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to ignore?
So it is the belief of this White House and the White House counsel's office that the president was within his executive authority to do that. He is the executive of the executive branch, and therefore he has the power to fire anyone within the executive branch that he wishes to. There's also a case that went before the Supreme Court in 2020, Scala Law LLC versus the Customs, Bureau Protection. I would advise you to look at that case, and that's the legality that this White House was resting on.
So the question, Caitlin Collins' question, how do you decide what laws you're going to follow and what laws you don't? I would have said, are you freaking kidding? First of all, I reject the premise of your question, but the president is the chief executive of the executive branch. If he wants to fire somebody, he can do that. Just like every Democrat president in the last 25 years has done that. I wouldn't have the patience to deal with some of these people. Okay, I got to get to this. I've got to get to this. There's a new Captain America movie coming out. I promise you, I know the show's almost over. There's a new Captain America movie coming out. Now, I've told you before, I am a huge Superman and Captain America fan. Superman, truth, justice, and the American way. I loved everything he stood for. Captain America, the pinnacle of American optimism. He fights for what he believes in. He stands for what's right. I've always loved Captain America and all the things that he's represented as a kid. Seriously. But the dude who plays Captain America now, I swear to God, Disney, you keep hiring these actors who completely destroy a product once it's been filmed. In the case of this Captain America Brave New World film, I think Disney and Marvel invested $185 million in making it. And the dude that plays Captain America now, I got to believe, did real damage. He's going to do real damage to box office numbers with the crazy stuff that he says about playing Captain America and who he represents. But listen.
Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations.
He doesn't think that the term America should be something that Captain America represents. His name is Captain America, for the love of God. He represents American exceptionalism. He represents everything that is good about this country. But the guy who plays Captain America now, I think his name's Anthony Mackie, doesn't believe that. Doesn't believe that. And so look, I can't help myself with some of this stuff sometimes. If these Disney executives just realize, you trot out one actor, or okay, this dude that was playing Captain America said, "Man, I get to play Captain America. I get to wear red, white, and blue, spangly outfit, represent the best country on the face of the planet. Man, America is the best country in the world." I guarantee you, those numbers at the box office would exceed all expectations in the overall budget for the movie. After he said that, I bet you they don't even break even now. I mean, they might break even when you consider the global box office with it, but I'm telling you, stuff just drives me crazy. Okay. Let me tell you about My Patriot Supply. We've all seen the headlines: cyber attacks on our power grids, drones in the sky, violent attacks on everyday Americans. The ugly truth is no leader, no system can protect you from everything. And the last thing I want is to be standing in line depending on help that might not ever come. And when the crisis hits, food is always the first casualty. Everyone needs it, and panic buying makes things worse. That's why I've made sure my family is prepared with My Patriot Supply. Their 4-week emergency food kit gives you the nutrition that you need to stay strong in a crisis. With 2,000 calories a day and 100% of your daily value of 12 essential vitamins and minerals, this kit keeps you going when every meal matters. Right now, they're offering $50 off their 4-week kit. So go to preparewithbnn.com right now to grab yours. Don't put this off. Now's the time to prepare. That's preparewithbnn.com to get your 4-week kit today. Okay, now on to the Rumble Rant tips. Ultra MAGA Hardcore says, Trump is probably going to be saving me a ton of money this year, so only right to pass them on. Thank you, Ultra MAGA. As you know, Ultra, you've been around, I think, since my very first show. 100% of everything that you give goes right back into the show to give you a better quality viewing experience. So thank you, my friend. And yes, Salty Mama, awesome name, by the way, says, condoms for all in the press briefing room. Please don't reproduce. Well, what about the conservatives? You want the conservatives to reproduce, right? We need more conservatives. And G Fontes, as always, I don't think a salary should be associated with his work on this project. G Fontes, always a regular Rumble Rant tipper in the live chat. Folks, thank you all. You all are the best. Oh, smash that like button, that little gray thumb beneath the video. Smash it. turn it green, because when you smash it, it turns green. That helps us make the leaderboard. We go for 400 every single night, 400 rumbles every single night. If we hit that threshold, normally we make the leaderboard. So it's nice. It's nice when we do. Tomorrow, guess what? Savage Wednesday. We got Savage Rich Barris already locked down for tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be an awesome show. And I know many of you all think, what flannel color am I going to wear tonight? Of course, you're seeing, well, it looks green on camera. This is not green. This is a black plaid color, a black flannel. Who knows what I'll wear tomorrow? But in the wintertime, because it's freezing cold in the studio, I wear flannel because it helps me get through the show without sniffling too much. So as always, folks, thank you all for watching. God bless you all, and God bless this amazing country that we call home. That's it for Battleground Live. Battleground Live. Take care. Good night, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yeah.